they've got to shore that up, I think, to really get over the hump in these team fights.
Well, that will be Simplicity's choice now with first pick or battleground choice. I think they are going to have picked first pick as we're going to VOLSKAYA Foundry, and that's a HeroesHearth Classic. This is the last HeroesHearth Classic since Tomb isn't available, but it's still a good place for HeroesHearth to try to get that momentum going even further with a 2-0 win.
VOLSKAYA. It's almost like they set the tone for VOLSKAYA in their opening week series when they picked Asmodean and then just like opened up a whole, it's almost like Pandora's box. It's like, do we open it? Do we not open it? And they come right out of the gate week one, they're like, we're opening it. And it just kind of like puts the fear into a lot of teams now with VOLSKAYA, and that it does bring some unusual strategies. And, you know, during last week when I did talk to McIntyre leading into their series, he talked about Arthalon being on their team. It allows them to run different things, the flexibility. As much as we heard King Caffeine say that they have a limited hero pool, McIntyre and team, they think that they have a whole host of strategies they can still bust out. So we'll see if we get anything here on VOLSKAYA.
Yeah, there's some Asmodean. We've seen a fair amount of Junkrat too work out for some different teams. Tempo Storm even used the Junkrat as a way of trying to alleviate some of the weaknesses of having a Cho'Gall on their team. But it feels like within the North American region, as Braxis used to be a Gale Force map, VOLSKAYA is the HeroesHearth map. VOLSKAYA and HeroesHearth versus Team 12 last week, how they managed the first control point phase. Being really patient, understanding of the timing, how long it takes to channel up, how you can use the overtime, how you can back off in to try to get camps. HeroesHearth showed a lot of prowess on this map, so I'm hoping Simplicity has done their homework if they had to know that if they banned Tomb, that they were very likely going to have to face HeroesHearth here.
In their last draft, it seemed like they had done a bit of their homework. It just didn't quite pan out. They played to a very close game. We'll see if they can get over it here. Genji, of course, being the ban of choice. We saw Hanzo get let through for Kron, which is, he's still undefeated on that hero, by the way. And so, do you let that through, or do you say, look, Tyrael's great and all, but I think we need to put Hosty on Hanzo because giving Hanzo up is terrifying for giving it up to Kron.
Yeah, it's those Dragon's Arrows, the combo with that, it just gives another way, another player who can start the initiation. And for HeroesHearth, they have so much synergy, Jayhow, that it really doesn't matter who starts the fight. Anyone is ready to jump in and follow up on that, right? It doesn't have to be Ishbu going in with his Muradin or with his Diablo. It could just as easily be the Force Wall, the Dragon's Arrow, and that's a mark of really cool synergy for the team and mark of this very long-standing roster.
Tyrael being banned out, which means Greymane. If they give up, if Simplicity goes Greymane, I'd be really surprised. It's almost like they're daring them to take Greymane. I mean, because they're like, well, you're going to give us Hanzo, and we've already seen what we get out of Greymane. Hanzo picked up, I like that for Simplicity. And you talked about synergy, by the way. HeroesHearth, they're ranked #2 in North America in terms of the amount of heroes they use per kill. They sit right now at 4.55, right? And it kind of varies between about 4.6 to about 4.1. They're sitting just near the top in terms of the synergy. That's what it takes to confirm those kills. Teamwork, 4.55 per kill. I think that's one thing that when you talk about the synergy, that's one thing where they definitely excel.
Yeah, even the way they've been using their globals, they're stocking in very early, but not like too early, right? When they're stocking, they're ready to go. McIntyre on the jump has the isolation or the drag, and then you see the barrel roll over with Arthalon. This team, they communicate very well, and that's what you would hope for with how long this team has been together. Now Greymane is up for HeroesHearth. If we're going to see Crowan return to form there, doesn't necessarily have to be. I think for HeroesHearth, a lot has to do with some self-sustain on those control points, but I wonder if they're going to hold off on Uther a little bit longer now. They're not going to get it in this rotation at least.
I think they have to. When we talk about control points on this one, the biggest thing is sustain.
Yeah.
Lucio comes to mind, potentially Stukov comes to mind if you're on the side of Simplicity. And especially when we see the ETC Greymane, you can really kind of push them back with a flailing swipe or silence an area and control an area. So if I'm Simplicity, I would actually consider, especially having three picks before the second ban, maybe potentially going for their support and maybe looking towards either the Lucio or the potential Stukov, going back to it for K1 Pro.
My question here is Tassadar. Is Simplicity going to play a Tass Hanzo here? Sustain, you get more by having a Tassadar. A little more reliant on making sure that Hanzo can get those kills, but also maybe seeing Airho flex out to something who can help guarantee those kills too.
Where do you think we'll see the Malthael? And if so, do you think we'll see it now, or do you think it'll even make it through the second ban?
It was weird that he wasn't at all in the last draft, especially since Simplicity seems to be putting more focus into Malthael with Airho, kind of going away from the Warriors, though in the last game, a lot of sense to see him on that ETC. But even McIntyre has been playing more Malthael too.
Well, we get the Uther Tassadar to pair with the Hanzo, this time on the side of Simplicity. The Tassadar pick has been played one time by Zuna this year. They did win that game, and it also gives them that safer backline. You're not as aggressive when you're Tassadar as you are when you're a Greymane, so maybe this will play a little bit to the strategy. Unless
you're shifting in, arc-oning, and saying, let's go, in the backline, fan style.
Tassadar is made of paper now when you look at his health pool. I don't know. It's low. He's literally paper.
P for paper and Protoss. Got it.
Sounds the same.
Yeah. Here's Hartho. We're looking at a Blaze ban.
Blaze has a lot of good self-sustain. I mean, lighting people up on that oil and you're just standing there. I saw
for some reason you heal yourself when you're standing in fire, which seems a little scary, but you know, works.
That's how it works in World of Warcraft. You just stand in the fire. That's how you raid.
Is it?
Yep, that is confirmed.
I've been doing it wrong for years.
100% confirmed. You always stand in the fire when you're raiding. Nobody ever does that.
First, folks. Pro tips from J-How. I don't know what that was. Next ban from Simplicity. What are we? Probably support. But do you Rhaegar?
That's the thing is
BBJ. Or do you Lucio?
Both. Okay, so Rhaegar gives you a totem. By the way, when it comes to totems, his is on a 30-second cooldown since he's on a shaman, so he gets the cooler totem. When it comes to other totems that had been down previously for other heroes, they're on a 45 or 60-second cooldown.
He's a totem hipster. I got it.
Yeah, he's a totem hipster, so you know he throws it down at the hip, right? No, I don't really know. Anyways, but either way, Rhaegar, actually, that's the one thing that he has, I think, over Uther, is that he has a bit more sustained postless.
That one was so bad. Let's get Oh, okay.
You know, from a distance, that actually looks a little bit like Vikings when you have a weird angle on the screen. But
we already had one of those today.
Yeah. But with that being said, Rhaegar seems a bit more likely than Uther because of the level 4. It gives you a bit more sustain to get that percentage healing from the totem. I like that over the Uther. However, I don't like either of those when it comes to the rest, right? I mean, obviously you've got ETC Greymane. You could still go with that Uther. But if you can't go Uther because he's on the other side.
Yeah, I was like,
never mind. Rhaegar, though. Rhaegar.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I get it. Would you like to see the Lucio then instead?
Lucio, I love Lucio on this map. I mean, you have a lot of wall ride potential. You can kind of circle around, stay in area, stay safe, and you give the infinite sustain. They stick with the Rhaegar though.
And they've played this a couple of times, the Rhaegar Malthael pairing together.
I mean, for what it's worth, you have ETC that can go glow build. You have Malthael who has self-sustain. So and once ETC completes his quest, he gives the AoE heals. And so if you're on the melee, so it's not the worst case scenario. Don't get me wrong. So ETC and Malthael do have enough self-sustain on there to pair with a Rhaegar. It's just not as high priority. But with Uther on the other side, I mean, both of them are going to be mana depleted at some point.
Yeah, maybe we'll see something like Spirit Walker's Grace for Rhaegar. The totem, as you said too, being able to drop the totem down. Even Feral Heart, if you want to build into that kind of style, just to have some sort of way of being able to keep up with mana. For Uther 2, we've seen a lot more of the Hammer of Justice build, but it can do sort of the same thing. At level 1, he's got some options there to try to make sure that they're sustaining through these fights. But of course, the Tassadar is going to come in handy for that too for Simplicity. Simplicity last 2 picks. We're looking at a King Caffeine hero. Ooh,
I love me some Thrall.
Hello.
This is Blow Up City, right? So the way this would work is that Thrall, melee assassin, got to be on that front line. He has self-sustain himself, right? So he can keep alive. But what you can do is if you get the hook back there, you get the hammer down, then you get the root from Thrall. I mean, somebody gets blown up, and Thrall has really good burst damage as you get later in the game. And once he finishes his quest early, which, you know, we'll see how that goes, you can kind of double Q once you finish that. And then Hanzo, you get the lockdown. So it's Blow Up City. It's just a matter of landing that, and the consistency is going to be the hardest part with this. But in terms of burst damage, they've nailed it.
Sundering or Earthquake?
Oh, Earthquake all the way.
Earthquake, baby. And as we've seen for Simplicity, they're a pretty good Stitches team. King Caffeine, his Stitches, was landing hooks versus Team 12. The one game that they won and they beat Team 12 on was Tomb of the Spider Queen with their Stitches follow-up crowd control. So we'll see how that works out. Final pick for HeroesHearth, Abathur.
Just take away the amount of bodies on the map. I mean, the thing is, when you go Earthquake, Tassadar, especially late game, this is a very late game style, right? You can get the Earthquake, you can get the Tassadar, you get the potential burst damage from Hanzo as you go further on. And there's not really a lot that would scale kind of the same way, or at least open up the same way, I think, for Simplicity. So if you can land that and you have this energy, you know, King Caffeine, in parts of the interview that you don't get to hear, I asked him a little bit about K1 Pro switching onto that. He's like, I'm so used to him being on ranged assassin that it feels weird. But the amount of synergy, knowing where they want to be, he actually says that that role, that development between the two, the tank and the support there, has actually come along much quicker than he anticipated just from that familiarity there. And that was a big talking. He went on at length praising K1 Pro, and I think he's justified. Having K1 Pro there right beside him, I think could potentially spell trouble for HeroesHearth. But again, you have to do it consistently throughout the game.
Yep, they will be looking to land those hooks. The last time, too, that Simplicity played the Stitches composition, it was on Tomb, where the lanes were far closer together. There were a lot more opportunities to get the hooks and the rotations back and forth, and they also played with a double support of Uther and Malfurion for lots of follow-through. But they still have the Thrall, who can follow up with the roots to help with that too. And then post 10, you've got things like Dragon's Arrow, maybe even a Force Wall. We'll see if Zuna wants to go that way, but we're ready for game 2.
Ready for game 2 is Abathur, being played by Arthalon. He is one of the most aggressively positioned Abathurs I've seen. I don't know if here, as we get later into the pro scene, there's a little bit of fun between King Caffeine and K1 Pro. I don't know if he'll be as aggressive here against this style of team, but if you watch the minimap, you will see very aggressive Abathur positions.
Yeah. We'll see. Sorry. There were some things going down here, hanging out, having fun. The Thrall, though, from Airho. Had you heard any, for lack of a better term, and I apologize now, but rumblings about this hero being played more?
No, but I've been hopeful.
Oh,
I've
yeah?
been hopeful.
What's that?
Reasons. I personally don't think Thrall's is bad, and it's not a very popular opinion. But Thrall does have the sustain style. He does have the burst style, and he's a very limited hero in terms of compositions he can run in, right? Mm-hmm. Going against the style of a Malthael with an Abathur hat probably doesn't feel so good. That's not a spot you generally like to be in.
No, it's going to be rough for him, and that means that he's going to be slowed down quite a bit on his stacking. He's only at 2 of Echo of the Elements, has to build up to 20 enemies killed after the Chain Lightning in order to be able to get the second charge. So that might be a place, or at least it will be a place initially for HeroesHearth to kind of slow down Simplicity. Maybe even force someone to come down and help him with that stacking too. We saw Tassadar start to rotate in because Airho had been pushed so far away from the wave. And in that regard, HeroesHearth just trying to slow things down, force out some rotations that are less favorable to Simplicity being able to get a grip on other lanes.
I actually want to talk about this solo lane matchup in particular. If you go back to mid-season Brawl, I remember I got to talk to Wubby before mid-season Brawl started. I was sitting in on some of their scrims. Nice body blocking. Urho is going down here. But I want to talk about this. This is something he showed me before it got shown on stream. And it was when Ragnaros was still meta. Ragnaros relies on Q stacks. He would sit there on Leoric and he would slow walk, ranging those minions, and then position them directly under his fort wall so that he wasn't sustaining fort wall damage, but Ragnaros could not step forward to get those Q stacks. So you would just see a Ragnaros trying to get 30 Q stacks, and it's 8, 9, 10 minutes in the game, and Wubby's just sitting there like, look, I don't have to clear this wave. And so that's something that you can do similarly against Thrall. Although we saw it pushed out, that is actually a tip from solo laners that you might actually want to consider when you go against questing talents that require you to finish a minion after using an ability or with an ability.
Yeah, we kind of saw McIntyre doing the same thing, and that's something that you, in general with Malthael, can punish pretty hard on, is that idea that with that extra healing that you get off of Soul Rip of heroes, you can be a little more divey and bullying within the lane and then turn around and clear out when you've forced your opponent back. but he's starting to get there in stacks. He's almost halfway there where you'll get the mana cost reduction. But a control point is unlocking right now.
It's going. And again, sustain is the name of the game. We did see the totem. McIntyre being collapsed on. There's the hook. Nice juke over as he landed a little bit of a Reaper damage. That was cool. It was a really cool play.
It was awesome. He didn't know how many was coming down there, but he had an idea, threw out the Death Shroud, ended up hitting, he got hooked in, immediately had the Wraith Strike over, and then had the Symbiote too. And the Symbiote build is all about this regenerative microbes. You've got the persistent Carapace with the sustained, that it's able to persist after Symbiote ends and have the increased shielding. So it's more of a supporty style Arthlon build, and even going into Mule. So we're supporting all levels here. J-How, the structures, the heroes.
Why not? Just support all around. Sustain is the name of the game. The power slide onto K1 Pro, the knockback, and they instantly dive on and take care of Uther.
No support once that ghost ends for a few seconds, giving time for HeroesHearth to start the channel. Simplicity has got about 60% done. They're going to leave the ETC on the point and then do what they like to do, which is go in and start getting some of the camps. They already have the camp up in the top. That forces someone from Simplicity to go deal with that, especially with the Abathur pushing along with that and the Locusts. Then they get the turret in the bottom. They can bring that back up, really making sure that they're utilizing the great Merc control that Greymane provides.
BBJ getting hooked in, but just out of position. That's the combo that we're going to have to see, is the root stun in some form or fashion directly after the hook. Just out of position with Simplicity. They get it every 16 seconds when you talk about the hook duration, so it's up to them to land that. Consistently, hasn't happened yet, but they're going to be looking for it. Should be happening any second, see if they can get the lockdown.
96% HeroesHearth are going to step off. There is time for Simplicity to channel up, but important to note that HeroesHearth, this is something that they have calculated to do. Generally, they get behind, they go off, they take control, and then they're willing to step back again. Expect them. I think that they will still likely get back on the point. They're trying to get heroic abilities if they can, though if they lose BBJ here, that would cause a lot of issues. That would be a huge wrench in the plans.
And that is it, but KingCat being so far forward. McIntyre, the body blocks again. They are just doing all the right things, but they got away with one. Had Urho been up there a little bit sooner, I mean, that's the combo. They need it. They almost were able to get it there, not quite yet.
So HeroesHearth didn't get the Protector. They had to deal with BBJ, almost getting picked, turned around, got the kill instead. We're okay with the kill. The control point continued to channel. Simplicity got the Protector. HeroesHearth turned around, used that they were almost 10, forced away Simplicity. They're going to steal their camp. That Protector was just lost to the wind for Simplicity.
HeroesHearth has a 2-level lead. The Abathur soaking, the 3 kills. Now we're going to see a bit of structure damage come in here. HeroesHearth starting to stretch this out. Simplicity, it's going to get out of control soon, because by the time the next control point comes in, it could easily be a 13. So whenever Simplicity gets 10, they might have to and look to be aggressive early.
Looking at a mosh pit for Ishbu. Tormented Souls as McIntyre gets on the line of Simplicity. Remember, there's no heroic abilities here. Any kill is a huge kill for HeroesHearth, especially since they did use that Tormented Souls. They take out one. They also used the clone for the Abathur, and it was used on Greymane. It'll be cleared up without any further losses for Simplicity, but it's still that 2-level lead as Simplicity gets heroics.
It just seems like every week I see McIntyre making more and more plays. I don't know if it's just a level of comfort or what it is, but dude has been on point, and a big reason this team is starting to pick up steam.
You know, I wondered if Simplicity were going to Divine Storm. It's so much lockdown. You've got Go for the Throat, you have Malthael, you have Rhaegar and ETC, so a lot of melees. I sort of wondered, we've seen K1 Pro play Divine Storm one other game, though that was versus the Zeratul.
I think it'll be a matter of, I mean, he might decide beforehand, but obviously going Gorge, you can pull somebody out, get the lockdown, make sure nobody comes out. But I feel with Dragon Arrow, I mean, you can really lock people down and they have a hard time moving within the Earthquake, but it is, D-Shield I think is just the much safer play.
Yeah, especially with Mosh. He needs to Divine Shield someone out who can try to take care of that if he can't take care of it himself. I wondered though, I think they were thinking about it, especially with the Wombo of the Earthquake too, but Earthquake is plenty to follow up on that gorge as well, or just to slow down HeroesHearth from trying to save whoever gets gorged.
Timing for HeroesHearth was level 13 right as this thing spawned, and they'll just sit here. No hook landing there, no way to follow up. And again, without the Thrall in that composition, I don't know if it can actually, I mean, it was close on maybe Rhaegar, and that was probably going to be it. So I think if they're really going to try and pull this, they need to do it together. And I think right now they need to take that tower, get themselves some experience, and try and get back in this game. They're being very passive, and I think respectfully so, but almost too respectful.
Yeah, they see HeroesHearth out, not getting onto the point yet, and it's enough to scare away until HeroesHearth can get set up. Simplicity are gonna pick up a turret, might help with something like with a pushing, or if they can slow this down, eventually get on the point. Great hook, but it's on Ishbu. He's a pretty escapable hero.
McIntyre playing the mark, but not going to be able to do much. Level 13 close for Simplicity. That's when they'll look to fight. So we see Hosty pushing in with the bottom lane here, just getting some damage in. They have to try and start finishing some of these structures, because you could see the shadow of the mule coming down right as we went away, and that will continue to keep all the structures alive. They actually got a hook up top. Here, he's got him gorged.
Rhaegar's gorged. Hammer of Justice is Ishbu trying to bail him out. Great power slide follow-up too. Had the Mosh even being used, everything just to try to keep Crone alive. Now the Earthquake is down, but with the Tormented Souls and Crone receiving the Ancestral Healing as BBJ went down, HeroesHearth were hoping that they could at least turn things around. Another hook lands, another Hammer of Justice keeps him there, and there is a second kill for Simplicity, catching them back up in a big way to HeroesHearth.
That's all it took, was one kill, one hook, and they got it onto BBJ, and that's sometimes all it takes is getting that one combo, getting it all started. Now they'll be able to get themselves a Protector, most likely. Death timer's still pretty short. They're just now getting onto that point. I think HeroesHearth might be able to come back and contest, but if they're willing is the question.
Yeah, they sent McIntyre all the way down into the bottom. Thrall's going to push in the mid, but the top push for Simplicity, even if Simplicity get this, HeroesHearth are really close to 16. They're trying to see if they can get there, get to that point so that Simplicity are less inclined. We're going to take a look at that again. It started out pretty well. You know, Ishbu used a lot to try to bail out BBJ, and BBJ did get the Ancestral off after the fact when he knew he was going to go down, but there's kind of some split focus happening for HeroesHearth. They had Zuna in the back using that Tassadar, the flanking Tassadar that we talked about, and then kind of the icing on the cake from King Caffeine, pulling back Ishbu there.
The flanking Tassadar, always a threat there, but the channels here, and as you said, I think 16 is going to be more important. The good thing is that Simplicity did take down that fort wall after they took that team fight. Going to open it up here, which means they'll be able to compound this just a bit more by taking down this fort, so things are not all lost, but the mini-map shows Greymane and team with a very aggressive flank.
Yeah, that Stitches inside Mosh in 15 seconds as HeroesHearth They're going to flank all the way around and have found themselves a K1 Pro. There's two inside the Protector, so there's no way that K1 Pro is going to get inside there. He uses Divine Shield just to buy a little bit of time away from the Protector, but he will fall. Now HeroesHearth turn in, taking out the Protector. This Protector's not really been able to get very much of anything done now as it gets pushed all the way back to the fort. The knockback hits, they don't quite get caught by the power slide, but Stitches will be inside of a mosh pit.
Stitches, he's going for a dance party. You can see the Ancestral was used on Ishbu because the fort was targeting him. Zuna uses the Archon, forced to use his second dimensional shift. But HeroesHearth turned that around real quick.
Yeah, then the fort was targeting McIntyre, uses his inevitable in to get out from that too. Finally, they get some minions here. HeroesHearth have the awesome flank around. There's only two people who can go inside the Protector, so they take out the first one who's outside of it. It was Hanzo who gets the hot seat, shotgun if you will, in the Protector, so poor K1 Pro had to be the noble sacrifice. I didn't know if HeroesHearth would dive even further underneath the fort, but Ishbu was willing to take that shot, went in there with the mosh pit, giving them a turnaround, a couple of kills, and wresting back control of this game.
Gilly, when you get a Protector, are you the driver or do you ride shotgun?
I like to think that, you know, I would be okay with someone else driving, but I think I gotta take the wheel.
That's cool.
Gilly takes the wheel.
I like to do the damage.
Do you?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll ride shotgun.
This. Wait, does that mean I'm Cho, you're Gaul?
As long as you don't feed, yes. That's my biggest fear is you got to find somebody you trust to play Cho. It's like, just let me poke. Don't run hit. Okay, we're dead.
It's a much cooler name, though, if you play Cho and I play Gaul. Just saying.
Wait a minute.
You'll figure it out. 18-16, the 2-level lead for HeroesHearth that they have had for a big majority of this game. And a big part of that has been their protector control. You know, before versus Team 12, they had the control point control, and they would get the protectors. Here, though, they're showing just how much they can do even if they don't get the protectors. Fighting outside of the protectors, then taking it out really quickly, not allowing Simplicity to get anything done with it. That was beautifully done.
That was so good. He self-cleansed, essentially. I believe that would have been the self. I don't think BBJ was in place, using his 13 talent, and just saying, I'm walking away from this. That's so good. So good.
Simplicity, let's see. They're still rotating around, making sure that they're keeping up the soak, but keeping together the damage with King Caffeine and one of the follow-up crowd controls, the Roots of Thrall, in a hopeful attempt to try to get some picks that set them back up, set them into this game, because with 20 almost here for HeroesHearth, Simplicity are facing the same situation as before, and HeroesHearth, they're very happy that they're almost a talent tier above, because it's the bottom control point, J-How.
Well, the bottom control point, I mean, it just brings so much chaos, and we've got a potential party bush here. McIntyre in this vent, Crowan coming up. We'll wait to see if anything passes through. There's the Sonic Arrow out, getting some vision. Abathur Mines giving vision as well. You know, when we took a look at the middle lane just about 30 seconds ago, Abathur was continuing to use that mule. That's that tower that we didn't see taken a long time ago. And I think it should finally fall, but all that does is just walk right in.
All right, Hammer, Root,
Mush.
Benediction, they overlap that quite a bit. Now McIntyre's in the back too. HeroesHearth are willing to take this fight even without the level 20. They've used the clone, going in. Arthelon chasing down Hosty really far with that clone as he swipes and takes him down, turning around, getting a second. Uther falls too. It's a third, it's a triple with Stitches now. And the body blocks, the slows from the totem confirm the kill. 4 kills for HeroesHearth. Only Tassadar up left. HeroesHearth, they'll take more than just a control point. They got Abathur who can sit on that.
Yeah, you get Abathur to sit on the control point and just hang out at the bottom of the map. He looks comfortable, nice and sleeping there.
Taking a nap.
Yeah, but this is just going to be a free keep. They actually might just go for game here. They have Greymane, but Malthael taking so much damage there from the Archon. I think they can end here. When you have Greymane, once he gets back into Worgen form, this should be good.
Use the mule now and tank the shots from the core for a while, especially since Zuna has been clearing out those waves. And the same with the totem. The core is falling down as Hanzo comes back up. Doesn't have the Dragon's Arrow. Ishbu's going to slow him down. Use the Mosh as everyone walks in and gives the time for HeroesHearth to finish out this game 2-0.
Hanging out. I mean, sometimes you'll do that. You're not actually doing it to mean anything. That's actually one where you actually walk up to their base and mosh pit right outside the gate.
Yes. The respawn timers were pretty close for them, and I liked even just trying to tank some of the core shots at the end too, you know? You could say it was a manner mule, and it was good mannered, but it was mainly good mannered for your team in that you're making sure that you could soak up some of those shots, because Tassadar with Psionic Echo can clear out those waves and make things difficult when you're going for that core push.
It's all the little things. It's attention to detail. When you get down to the nitty gritty, it seems like, hey, both teams have really good mechanical skill. That's true for a lot of pros, right? The majority of pros all will say you've got really good mechanical skills. But it comes down to the little things. What little things do you do well? It's when you go back to teams like Fnatic last year, they did so much in the macro game. There was all the little things, and you're just like, man, like if you actually just watch the replay, you see them do so many different things. It's like, this is what put them on that next level. HeroesHearth, I'm not saying they're on last year's Fnatic level, but they're well on their way. They're picking up steam. And yeah, it's putting down the mule to eat a shot. Yeah, it's making sure you do the mosh. We all know those things. But it's the attention to detail to do those things consistently. And that's the thing, that if you're looking to be good, if you're looking to be great, you have to do those. No matter the situation, you can get away with ending the game doing that. But if you practice the small things more consistently, you'll find greater success, and it's more natural later in the game and allows you to do more of the little things. So it's things like that with HeroesHearth that I really am enjoying watching right now.
Yeah, it's a joy to get to see, and it does set them up 2 games over Simplicity so far. Now, we haven't talked about it too much, but Simplicity really can't afford any more series losses if they want to have an ability of contesting some of those Western Clash spots. So we'll see after this break if they're able to win the next 3 games and get the reverse sweep starting. This is HGC.